swept up in today's independent music.
I mean, everybody who knows me knows I'm like this positivity. Life is always wonderful.
Good. I haven't seen you without a smile yet, but I've only seen you now twice, so I can't really use that as a benchmark, I don't think.
Gauge, yeah. Well, hopefully you'll see it for the entire interview.
There we are. Well, I better, because if I don't, I'm going to mention it.
Okay.
Shall we just kick straight in? Or
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm just curious, because I've obviously read your bio on your site and all that stuff, and I'm going to dig into pieces of that. So you're from Beirut, but you left when you were 8 months old, I think?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's not a lot of heavy influence from having been there, but musically, is there anything that still ties you there, like with your family and whatnot?
I mean, I wouldn't say that my family was, were big music fans. So not really. I ended up, more than anything, my parents gravitated towards North American culture and that kind of music. So, it's funny because you see me wearing this Motley Crue shirt. I grew up on 80s rock. And now the fact that I do country, I always question, well, how am I writing country songs? Where does that come from? And I realized it's my mom. She was always listening to Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, Eddie Rabbitt, Crystal Gale, all of that. And, sometimes you don't realize the effect it's having on you subconsciously, but clearly it did something.
Yeah, I was definitely going to ask about that, because your influences, some of them listed on the site anyway, are Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt, both fantastic musicians.
Yeah.
But then your idol as a child was Axl Rose.
Yeah. I mean, I have to give him 100% credit for the reason that I even wanted to get into music. I discovered Guns N' Roses probably when I was in 7th grade, and it changed everything. All of a sudden, it gives you this idea that you're cooler than you think you are. You could be just by listening to that kind of music. And it was my first concert at 14. And that changed everything, because I remember the energy of live music. I'd never been in that kind of environment. And it was at the CNE stadium, because it existed at that time. And I'm kind of dating myself. Anyhow, the energy of live music. And then Axl himself, it was crazy. I mean, now you know a lot more, and you're like, yeah, there's probably drugs involved in that. But the point is, he was so raw, and, I don't think anybody can really say that at that time we had that kind of energy and performers on stage. It was crazy. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do after watching him, and I idolized him forever.
So, and that exists still to this day?
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw the other story, which was, a few years ago. I was having a milestone birthday, and people said, "Oh, are you going to throw a big party?" And I said, "I don't know why, but the only feeling I'm getting is that I need to go to LA and meet Axl, and that's what I want for my birthday." And everyone went, "You're nuts. What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, you know what? Even if I'm nuts, I'm willing to take that risk and find out what is this hunch that I'm having." And so I flew out to LA, and I found his home on Google. God bless Google. And I drove out to Malibu. And as I was driving up to his home, I'm planning in my mind what it is that I'm going to say to security to hopefully get him out, just so I can say hi and say, "It's my birthday. Can we have a photo?" And he was literally outside his home, like a minute away from his house. And so I drove up to him, spoke to him, and explained the situation, explained I wasn't a stalker. I wasn't crazy. And luckily he believed it and said to me, just go up to my driveway and let's do the photo up there. And so we chatted for a bit, and, it was unbelievable. And I always say that moment also was another pivotal moment in my life, because it makes you realize that you could think of something that's just so crazy and out there, and people think you're nuts, but you make it happen. And then it's like, well, if I can make this happen, I can make a lot of stuff happen.
So music to the man, does he live up to expectations?
I think I'm very lucky that I met him at this point in his life, because obviously we all know the stories of earlier in his younger years. Wasn't the kindest person.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect when I saw him in the street walking, because I was like, he might get angry that I've come to his home, and that someone's intruding. He was all smiles, very gentlemanlike, spoke very eloquently, was very, very kind and accommodating. And I was like, wow, that's the pivotal, the most magical way that you could possibly meet your idol and have it go that way.
And do you take, so going back to his younger years of mischief and whatnot, do you take an edge of that I don't give a shit what people say? Is that where you pull some of that from for your delving into music and not caring what other people have to say about it?
Yeah, I think, it's way beyond even just music. Um, and it's funny because people sometimes say, oh, well, you don't care. And I said, no, I care about people. I don't care what people think. There's a difference. So you can care and be caring and kind. I totally believe in that. And, the more you see about regarding my music and this festival that I created, Love Revolution Festival, it's all about love and being kind to people and putting that number one. But that doesn't mean that you allow people's opinions and ideas of what they believe you are to dictate who you become. So there's a difference there.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So I'm not going to hang too long on the Axl Rose thing, but I do have to ask, when you started, you released an EP, Spellcasting, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of more alt rock 90s vibe I got from it anyway. And is Secret Garden from that EP, by the way?
No, so I did 4 songs, and it was produced
Okay.
by John Angus MacDonald from the Trues, who
Yeah.
I love them. And I always joke around with John Angus because I say to him, when I reached out to work with you, I really didn't know much about the Trues. I reached out to him because I heard that he had produced the Glorious Sons, who are like one of my favorite bands.
That's
And so
fantastic.
I said, I hope you're not offended. But after meeting them, their manager at the time, he gave me a whole bunch of CDs, and because at the time we still listened to CDs, and I put them in my car and I listened to them, and I fell in love with the Trues. I love Colin, his brother's vocals are, to me, one of the most incredible. He's an unbelievable vocalist. I'm talking worldwide, not just Canadian.
Yeah.
And, I feel honored to be friends with them. So we worked on 4 songs together, rock songs. I wrote those songs myself. And, of course, John Angus helped along with, as a producer, with the arrangements and everything, and plays on the record as well. And I just think it's funny because I had no musical experience. And the way I sent him those songs was literally singing them into my phone. And I still say to him, I'm surprised you agreed to work with me. As someone who'd never written songs before and sending you these demos, of just vocals. So
Yeah.
he saw something in it, and he went, yeah, you had great melodies, and just, I could see that you knew how to structure songs, even though I'd never written songs before that.
Okay, so where do we find this EP? Because it's not on your spot. I think understandably pushing yourself as a country artist, I guess, this is maybe why we can't find it that easily, but where would we look?
There is only one place, I believe, now that you can find, which is on SoundCloud. Yeah, they're
Okay.
still on SoundCloud. And like you're saying, the reason I removed them from all the other streaming services is, first of all, the producer who I work with now, Brent Woods, he was very insistent on, if you're going to follow this path towards country, even if it's country rock and there's a rock edge, you don't want to be confusing people also, because if you've listened to those other songs, it's so different. It is really rock. And, now I'm just in a different, I don't want to say, people are like, oh, that's smart, you're going into country, as if it was some kind of planned strategic business decision. And I go, no, it naturally gravitated that way. And I think once you start going towards something, you don't want to mix up an audience because, yeah, we don't want to constrict ourselves with what we're doing musically, but at the same time, you can confuse people because they go, well, what are you? And I found a happy balance, even with the country that I'm doing. If you listen to some of the songs like Outlaw, I mean, that's super rock. In fact, country stations didn't play that. So, you can still be doing rock and country and blurring the lines like a lot of country artists are. But I just felt like those other first 4 songs were so far removed from what I'm doing now that it doesn't make sense.
It's funny that country stations wouldn't play that. I mean, that's, I think, my favorite song on your Spotify list anyway of what you have out. And maybe it is because it's more rockin'. But so how did Secret Garden come about then? Because it seems to sort of split the difference between your like bridge into country music, but it feels like an alt rock song.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten lots of comparisons to kind of Evanescence feel to that song, and I do feel that. And it was a funny bridge because that's the first song I did with my new producer, Brent Woods. And just to give you a little bit of background, Brent is in LA and we met through mutual friends and we just became friends initially. I wasn't working with him, I was working with John Angus. But when I went to go do new music, after I'd written those and recorded those 4 songs with John Angus, Brent and I had built up such a friendship, and musically I had such respect for him. And he's a total rock guy. I mean, he had a band called Wildside in the 90s. They recorded in Eddie Van Halen's house. He's worked with Kiss. You know, he currently plays with Sebastian Bach. He's his guitarist and tours with him. He was with Vince Neil for 10 years off and on. I could go on. And he's in a band with Taylor Hawkins as well from the Foo Fighters. You know, Taylor Hawkins has a side project called Chevy Metal. And, you know, I'm like, oh my God, this is my rock guy. You know, he's going to create an incredible rock album with me. And I went to LA and I spent 2 weeks with him. And he said, before we do anything, I want you to find your sound and you need to figure out who are you. Stop trying to be Axl Rose. Stop trying to be in 80s music, you know, rock idols. It's not who you are. Yes, you like that music, but it's not who you are as a person. So I want you to find out who you are. And that's when I started writing, you know, different kinds of songs like The Secret Garden and Pretty Little Things. I remember writing during that period. And he listened to it and he went, you're not rock. You know, and I went, what are you talking about? And he almost started to convince me I was like Christian rock or something. I said, no, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to play the religious thing because I'm not very religious myself. But then when he said, well, this is sounding more country, that to me, I just see you going that way more than anything. It took me a while to also feel that way. But I started to see that he was right because the more songs we wrote, you know, the songwriting process is me and him, we co-write. But I will usually write the song, send it to him, and then we work on it together. But the idea initially comes from me. And I could see what he was talking about. It really was more of a country vibe than it was rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I have to ask, what is, to this day, what is your preferred genre though? If you're kicking back, I mean, you're wearing a Motley Crue shirt and Axl Rose is your idol, but if you're sitting back and listening to music that isn't yours, what are you listening to? Are you listening to your mom's country music, or are you listening to your rock of old, you know?
It's moods. You know, I listen to everything. Good music is good music. I really do. I listen, you know, I'm a big fan of Sarah McLachlan, Jan Arden. I also love that kind of, I love folky music, you know, Joni Mitchell. Like it's all over the place. But really, I mean, I think in terms of listening and in terms of writing, I did understand the difference. I totally love rock. So if I'm in a car and I'm driving, I'm listening to rock music. And that's why, no insult to country music, but you have to be honest about those things. And I've said to people, I don't really sit and listen to country music. It might be what I write. I love the whole vibe of it because also, you know, now I do shows with other country artists and I have such a high respect for them because there's such a cliche of what country songs were. And now what they are is something totally different. And, you know, it's real artistry, being able to paint a story in words and people can feel it. And that's why I think a lot of, you know, country fans are real hardcore country fans because the music speaks to them and it tells a story that they've lived. So to be able to do that and touch people in that kind of way, it's on a much deeper level than just kind of the superficial, that this is a great song, you know, and repetitive lyrics that just get in your head and get stuck in your head. I have a high respect for country music artists and the vocals. You know, some of these women and men, I've done singer-songwriter nights where you're not hiding behind anything. There's nothing to hide behind except your guitar. If you can't deliver vocally, you can't play those places. So I've had to up my game. I started taking vocal lessons, which I'd never done before. And, you know, you realize that it takes a lot of talent to be able to be a country artist as well.
So talking about music that hits people in a certain way and gets them to go hardcore, let's talk about Got a Feeling. That's your latest single release, right? Yeah. And what's your process when you're sitting down to write a song like this?
So it's so funny that you brought that up because here I was saying about having songs that are just repetitive lyrics. And, you know, sometimes songs write themselves, and I know that's cliche and a lot of people say that. That's exactly what happened. I was literally out for a walk. I walk every day, you know, for an hour in the evening. And that chorus, the Got a feeling, got a good, good feeling, got a. I was almost thinking like jingle for a commercial, and
Yeah.
it just kept repeating. And I sent it to my producer, and he went, "You got something there. It's so simple, but I get it."
Yeah.
And I built on that. But it was just about this song about love at first sight, and it wasn't like I was going through something that was inspiring. That I don't even know where that came from. I don't even know who it's about. I found out later it's about my boyfriend slash husband, Johnny Toronto, if you saw it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, you met him.
I have questions. Don't worry. This might be a good segue in, but I want to hit still on "Got a Feeling." So
Yeah.
it just came to you, and I didn't mean to compare it when you were saying the repetitive lyrics. I was comparing it to the great song part and where it hits you, right? But so when you hopped in the studio, how did you flesh that out then?
Well, again, sometimes it's months before I get out to LA because I record out in Los Angeles, but I'll work on the song here in Toronto. And, my producer and I go back and forth with ideas. Thankfully, because of technology, we're able to do that. And by the time I get there, he's already laid down the track, pretty much, the bass, like the drums, the whatever basic instruments. I get out there and record the vocals. But while I'm out there doing that, we'll flush out he'll pretty much have the arrangement done for me and sent to me before I even get out there. So we just might, finalize lyrics, change a thing here and there. But when I get out to LA and we're together working on it, it's pretty much a done song. It's not a lot of, back and forth. We don't take a lot of time because I usually go out for 2 or 3 days and we record sometimes one song, sometimes I do two songs. And
Huh,
we finish it up.
that's amazing. So yeah, I mean, and the song is like a great summer loving kind of, as you say, love at first sight track,
Yeah.
and as it does give you that feeling, that good feeling. It's just, I don't know. There is a bump to it that's just like, I'm cruising down the dirt road in a truck if you want, if that's you're taking that country angle, or you're just chilling on the beach and you're like, yep, just bobbing your head, having a good time. But given this love at first sight, do tell me about how you met your husband.
So, I write the song, record it, and I decide I really want to do a video for it because it's a fun song, and I was going back and forth about video ideas, and most of the videos that I've done, I've come up with the concepts because I like, it's your song, you're kind of seeing something for it. And with this one, I don't know where it just came to me. We had gone into lockdown at that time because this was April. And I went, how funny would it be that love at first sight turns out to be the fact that I'm on lockdown, under lockdown, and I don't have a boyfriend, as most people, they don't have someone because, or they're not able to get out as much. And so I order this doll from Amazon and he becomes my, companion at home. But then I took it a step further with this whole phenomenon of TikTok, which is just crazy how it's blown up more than ever. And especially during, this whole quarantine thing and whatever, people started creating these videos. And I really didn't get the whole TikTok culture. But I thought, how funny would it be that not only do I get this blow up doll, but him and I blow up on TikTok. We couldn't use TikTok because of copyright infringements and things. So we created our own thing called TikTok, and basically that's what you see in the video. So this idea started out just as a video concept that it would be funny to do that. But I realized after I finished the video, I said, you know what? How funny would it be to live this? Like actually have him. There's a whole storyline, and that way I could expand it even more marketing wise. You know, and it turned out to be the most brilliant idea. And God, I sound so cocky, but it was smart because it was free advertisement. Like you walk out in the street. I went to everywhere in Toronto with him. He was constantly in my car. And then I flew to LA with him. And then I went to Nashville with him and literally would be everywhere, sitting in restaurants. Like I'd, book a table for two, sit with him in the restaurant. The waiters, everybody, they're like, the looks that I got and people pulling out their phones, making videos. I mean, what more could you ask for? It was it was great. And it taught me a lot about the power of kind of shock value, which is, that's the easiest way to kind of get attention. But I did it in such a way that wasn't vulgar. In fact, it was just like, it was so crazy and out there. And I also believe that we'd been so serious, with everything that's going on in the world. It's like, we need to stop taking ourselves so seriously and we can laugh a little, And so when I walked out in the street, people just start cracking up and then they would come up and want to talk. And a lot of people want to take a photo with him. it was bringing people back together and not this fearfulness of stay away from me, like 6 feet, get away. And it's not in such a way of saying, hey, come on, we can all stick together. You just, in another way, you bring people together and they don't even know what's going on. They just know they feel good and it's making them laugh. And that's all you need.
Yeah. So is he still in bed this morning? Is that?
I like to say that, but the truth is that, it doesn't sound awful, but I blew him a little too hard and the whole thing popped out.
Oh no.
Wow. And I don't know how to fix it. So he's currently deflated and sitting in a corner. So, and it's awful because I've had shows since that people are like, you're bringing Johnny, right? You're bringing Johnny. It's like everybody wants a picture with Johnny, you know, and I say the only thing I have right now is the t-shirts. Actually, that's what I should have worn is my Johnny t-shirt, you know? Yeah. So unfortunately right now he's all out of hair.
Hilarious. Is there an aspect of Johnny that sort of deviates from people? I don't know if you have this as an issue in the first place, where people tend to objectify female musicians. So especially like if you're a country artist, where are your Daisy Dukes? Where's your tied up top or whatever else? Like, does that sort of distract people from that angle, or do you even have that issue to begin with people in music?
I always believe that what you believe to be true becomes your truth, you know? And so if you sit and talk about how this is awful and that's awful and this is being objectified, you're making that the focus. And I can tell you from firsthand my personal experiences, I don't make that my focus. And so I've never had that issue. Do I wear Daisy Dukes? Of course. I mean, just 2 days ago, I posted, you know, a thing in leather pants and leather top and saying, this is how I sit at home, just in case you guys are wondering. This is how I dress at home because, you know, being a musician is an entire lifestyle. I make fun of it. And not in a, you know, I don't want to say I make fun of it, but I kind of do everything lighthearted. And if you check my feed on social media, you won't see any disgusting comments because you give out a vibe. And it's, again, what you perceive to be true. And so there's nothing wrong with looking like a woman and dressing and being proud of that if you own it. And people can tell the difference. You know, I don't do anything because I feel I should do it. I do it because I want to do it. And this is who I am. I love wearing leather and I love wearing short shorts. And, you know, but I wear it in such a way, it's not like, hey, look at me. You know, this is who I am and I'm badass. You know, I'm the Joan Jett of country. And it's the vibe you put out there, you get it back because people get it. And again, just not focusing on those kind of things. You know, if you want to feel like you're victimized then that's exactly what you're going to be. And if you're strong and you believe that you're in control and you decide what you're going to be doing, people will just stand back and go, do what you do.
You were not kidding about the amount of positivity through this entire podcast. That's sure. So that's fantastic. And it's interesting that owning it and saying, well, fuck you, this is what I wear is essentially right back to that GNR, that Axl Rose attitude. And you're up in rock and just being like, this is what I do. I'm going to slither around like a serpent on stage and, you know, wear leather and sing super high and do whatever, you know, and not give a fuck. Yeah, that's great.
I think there's two sides to that. Number one, when you are truly yourself, it makes your life easier. And that's why some people are miserable. You know, they create a persona and then have to stick to that persona because it's what they've created. And the more famous you get, not that I'm there yet, but when you do get there, you know, you're stuck with that. And a lot of people know that that's far from the truth of who they really are. So it's a lot easier if whatever you're giving to people is actually who you are. I'm not putting on any persona. When I wear a black cowboy hat, it's because I feel like wearing a black. If I want to wear a Motley Crue shirt, then I'm wearing a Motley Crue shirt. You know, people are like, oh, into country? Yeah, so what? Can't wear a rock shirt? You know, and then now people know that I wear rock shirts all the time. They're like, yeah, it's cool. What kind of shirt are you wearing today or to the concert or whatever? The other side of it is when you're honest with people and showing who you really are, people know that. And I think people gravitate towards that because it shows people they can be themselves. You know, they're like, okay, if this person is building a career in the music industry and just being herself and doesn't care. You know, it's like when I came up with the idea of Johnny Toronto and myself with the pink wig in the video. And I remember, you know, the people who were shooting my video, Roadhouse Productions, they said, you really got balls. Because some people are so stuck to a brand and who they are that they won't go off brand and take that risk. I'm like, well, who do I have to answer to? Nobody. I don't care. This is what I'm feeling right now. And I think this is hilarious. And I want to do this, and I don't care about brands or building. My brand is me. It's Suzi Kory, whatever that happens to be at the moment. And I think it makes it fun. It makes it exciting for people. And like I said, I think being genuine is number one. That's what you got to be. Just be yourself.
So you made mention there about I'm not there yet. So what does the future hold for Suzi Kory? Is that a goal, or is it just wherever it takes you?
Yeah, I'm very much go with the flow. I think it's not like you shouldn't have goals. Of course, I created, I told you about, touched on it, the Love Revolution Festival. That's
Yeah.
something really important to me because there's a lot of values in that festival that are important to me as a part of the music industry. And so I created that and hopefully want to expand that worldwide, like do that festival everywhere. So that's just something. I'm a songwriter. I love writing for other people. I've started writing now with other writers, which I hadn't done before. And, so I have all these things in the works. So I do have goals, but I think the important thing is not to be attached to them. So if something doesn't work out, that's all right. And I think sometimes people have these certain things like, I want to get this award. I want to get that. You can say it's great. Absolutely. Why not? Have it there, but don't be so attached to it that you get disappointed when those things don't happen, because sometimes what is meant to happen for you is even way better than what you had planned for yourself. So you've got to be also flexible.
Yeah. So let's talk more about that festival, where when it's happening, where people can find it, how people could get in,
So
the basis behind it.
just to give you a little background about it, I mean, the funny story is that I'm not a promoter. I'm not someone who would put on shows or anything like that. I'm an artist like everybody else. But last year, as you know, everything kind of came to a halt, and, shows, festivals, everything else. And I said, there must be a way we can make this happen. And then I'd heard about drive-in, movies stuff. And then a couple of artists here, Dean Brody, who's a country artist as well, and Brett Kissel did some drive-in shows. And then I went, well, why don't I do a drive-in festival and have a whole bunch of artists? So not just myself. And I know a lot of country artists, so it wasn't hard finding that. And then the only thing was finding a piece of land. And luckily, I went to a friend, JP Jones, who found his friend who has a piece of land, Brent Clements, who has Clements Body Shop near Peterborough. And, one thing it's weird how when you put the idea out there, it's like, Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. Literally in 3 weeks, we put together this festival, which is unheard of, to put together a festival and have it be somewhat successful. A lot of people showed up. We had supportive radio stations, Global News reported live there about it because there was nothing else going on. And it kind of taught me that how this whole situation of what was going on, COVID, and how it brought music industry and live music industry to a halt. It also even the playground for anybody and everybody to come up with ideas to create things. All of a sudden, Live Nation was not putting on shows, but yet I'm an independent artist with my colleagues, and we were able to put on a festival. So I think it taught people a lot of things. But I told you about the values as well. For me, creating the festival was very important. I told people, anybody who's involved with it, the artists, there's no headliner. We're all on an even plane, and I don't care how far along you are in your career, and people are like, oh, but you're the person putting it on, aren't you the headline? And I said, no, we're going to pick names out of a bag, whatever. And, doesn't matter when you're playing, that 30 minutes that you have on stage, you go kick ass, and don't be concerned about when you're playing. If you're first, you're last. And it's so funny because last year, and then we did it again this year, same area in Cavan, Ontario. I'm planning to do the same next year. Same thing, I choose people and artists based on attitude. People who have a great attitude and love what they do. And they realize that they're there not for themselves. You're there for the people who are coming to watch. And you better give them the best show ever, And so it's just good vibes all around, and everybody's so cool. I make sure the artists are taken care of, do catering, whatever, this, that. And now I'm just looking to expand that. And so hopefully for next year, it's just going to get bigger and better, but it'll be in the same place again, hopefully next year.
So how would artists get connected with you to do that? Or is it right now amongst people that specifically?
Well, I started out that way. I think I'm going to expand it for sure because I'd like to, get to know more talent. I do always keep an eye out. I look at people who are active on social media, and not because I think you should live on social media. I have a good balance, even though people who check my social media think I like live on. So I don't. I'll post once a day on all the social media things, but the same exact thing. It's not like I'm putting, so much effort into it. Um, because you do need to keep reminding people, I have shows coming up. I have to keep telling them, oh, I have this show coming, whatever. But the point is, I want people who, when, are going to help support selling it and get the word out. So you definitely want people, great talent, who are talented, great attitude. People who just have a positive attitude about things, no jealousy, no, this is better than me. How come this person? None of that. And then people who will also help get word out and promote it, So, but I'm thinking of doing something this year with like Sonic bids or whatever, where, I'm going to have like 2 spots that people can actually just send in, and because that will also help support the festival. So hopefully we can also generate some income that way, to pay the artists who are part of the festival.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So then, in terms of helping out artists in this way, what are some words of advice you may give to a prospective artist, or one who's struggling, or even one who's made it but doesn't know what to do with that? What would you suggest to any or all of those?
God, I could go on and on, but if I'm going to give a few things, I would say, like we just touched on earlier, which is be yourself. The more you can be yourself and give an honest version of who you are in your music, in your persona, in how you handle people, all of that. Unless, of course, you're a big a-hole, then don't do that, right? Work on your personality first. But no, I think being genuine is paramount. Number 2, don't be afraid to do the things that others haven't done. I feel like sometimes, especially in the music industry, there's stepping stones that everybody imagines they should be taking, like it's steps. You can deviate, and that's okay. And I think more than anything, you will stand out when you decide to do something that is so different from what other people are doing. And you don't do it just because you want to stand out. You do it because it's something that's important to you, like the festival. I know I keep going back to that, but that's not something I'd imagined for myself. But when the idea came to me, some other people would have said, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Like, it's too big and too many things involved. I didn't think too much about that. All I knew is I wanted to do a festival, and I started step by step, and all of a sudden people came on board. And now I have tons of volunteers who come and volunteer their time to help out on this festival. So it's just a matter of believing in something and knowing this is important. Don't be afraid to take the chances. And does that mean you have to make investment? Of course. I mean, you want to be in a situation where you can afford to in the beginning, because obviously, in the beginning, you're not going to be making money off of this. You do have to invest in it. But now it made me look at how do you get funding, applying for it. So it's taught me so many things that as an artist, if I was just looking at performing, you're not going to learn all these things. And speaking of those stepping stones, most artists, they're just like, I'm trying to get on this festival. I'm trying to get on that. Well, then create a festival, Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't come to people. Everybody's aiming to do Boots and Hearts. If you're a country artist, your chances of getting on Boots and Hearts are slim to none. And I'm the most positive person, on this earth. But you have to be realistic and think, why are you chasing that one thing when there's so many more options? But people can't see those options when they're so focused on, oh, I should be playing Boots and Hearts because that's going to make you a big name. Well, you could also become a big name by creating your own festival, or just doing something else. So yeah, just think differently. And number 3, reach out. I know so many people who don't make the efforts of, number 1, finding people in the industry. For example, like if you're trying to get your songs on radio, I've told people so many times I was able to get my songs on Sirius XM, which is one of the best royalty, you get huge royalties off of that. So that's where the money is. And if you want to have a sustainable career, you've got to know, yes, you've got to create art and be very artistic in that sense and work on your craft, but you've got to know where the money is so that you can continue doing what you do. And I reached out to the program director on LinkedIn, and got through to him and sent the song. He liked it. And literally 30 minutes later, I found, okay, we'll play your song. And since then, I've had 4 songs playing on Sirius XM. Whereas I know people have had to hire people to do all that work for them. Not saying that's wrong, but number 1, it costs you a lot more. And if you're an independent artist, that's huge costs. That's cutting into anything you'll be making. And number two, how easy is it to just reach out to people? And so I found that musicians, a lot of people are not on LinkedIn. And I think, okay, social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, great. But you need to be on LinkedIn as well. That's the business side of things. And you need to create a profile for yourself as an artist on there, so that when you reach out to radio or you reach out to TV or blogs or whatever it may be, they go there and will see, oh, this is like seriously an artist, and it's a business. So it's set up that way. So it's important to have a mindset of an artist, but also have the mindset of a business person. This is your business.
Yeah. So now flipping it completely the other way, what are some things you would say to your current fans and or prospective fans checking out your music now for the first time, or having followed everything you've done?
I don't know what I'd say. I think I want to speak to the people who I know who've been following since the beginning. And this is including people who started following when I was doing rock music. It interested me that people did not necessarily just stick to the music part of it. And I'm not saying you can go out there and put crap and people will follow you no matter what. But I work hard on trying to put quality songs out there. I do work hard on my songwriting, on my singing, all of that craft side of it. But it's interesting that people also buy into who you are, and that's why I come back to the whole idea of the persona. If you're putting something out there that's fake, fine, you can attract people still, for sure. But when you are who you are, and people can pick up on that. When I do live streams and I'm just talking, I've done a lot of shows during COVID. We did them online, and I probably did more talking and joking than I did singing, but all of that makes people, it endears them to you if it's done the right way and you're just being who you are, and I'm a silly person, like super silly. I'll make fun of myself and everything and whatever, and I can laugh at myself. And that is what keeps people there. It's not just the music. And I think people put so much emphasis on, hey, this is my new song, listen to my new song. You've got to build a whole person around that, because people buy into who you are as a person and not just your music. So it's very important to show who you are. And I've said that to other artists who are just all about just posting about music. That's great. I know you're trying to get your music out there, but if people don't know who you are as a person, it's harder for them to buy into the music. So yeah, I appreciate the people who've been there from the beginning. Like I said, I know, long, like yourself, long hair rockers, and they're listening to. They're like, I never thought I'd listen to country, but I like your songs.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's awesome. If I can do a conversion like that, that's a miracle.
Yep. I will be honest. There is not a lot of country out there I'll listen to, but both Marla and I were sitting in like when first we got back from Toronto after that shoot with one of the chamber.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we've got to listen to her music now. There's no way I'm not going to connect with someone as like out there as Suzi. So we sat and listened to everything on Spotify, and we're like, what the fuck? So yeah, awesome. But so where do we find you then? So there's Spotify, there's SoundCloud if we want to go for the old rock stuff.
Yeah. The easiest way is my website, which is SuziKory.com. So SUZIKORY.com. It's got everything there. And I got links to everything else. So if you go there, you can see the music videos, bio, pictures, whatever you like.
And is there anything in closing you would like to say to all of the viewers?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on your program. I really, really appreciate it. And it's funny because we met haphazardly at a video shoot for One in the Chamber. I totally love those guys. I have so much respect for them. There's a group of musicians who are also looking at it like a business. And yeah. I think that's so cool. And that's how we kind of became friends, and I came out to be at their video shoot to support. So thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much, Suzi Kory.
Thank you.
Wonderful.